The sky over Boston Harbor turned an impossible purple as Nathan Reed clutched his bleeding side and ran. 3 shadows moved in perfect formation behind him, their footfalls making no sound on the wet pavement. Not human. Definitely not human. Shit! 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 He gasped, ducking into an alley near Faneuil Hall. His fingers came away slick with blood. The wound wasn't deep, but the strange burning sensation spreading from it made his vision blur. Whatever they'd stabbed him with wasn't just a knife. 24 hours ago, he'd been a nobody. Just another overworked ear doctor at Massachusetts General. Divorced at 32, living in a cramped Beacon Hill apartment. Now his name was on an interstellar hit list. A woman's voice cut through his thoughts, impossibly close to his ear. 3rd warehouse on your right. Doors unlocked. You have 40 seconds. Nathan didn't question it. The voice had saved him twice already. First at the hospital when she'd called his phone seconds before the explosion that killed 14 of his colleagues. Then at his apartment, warning him to get out just as the black vehicles surrounded the building. He lurched toward the warehouse, lungs burning. The door swung open as he approached. He tumbled inside as it slammed shut behind him. Don't move. The voice from the phone now came from a tall figure silhouetted against faint blue light. Who the hell are you? Nathan demanded, coughing. Why are they trying to kill me? The figure stepped forward, and Nathan's breath caught. She was tall, at least 6'4", with luminescent silver-white hair that seemed to float around her as if underwater. Her skin had a faint blue undertone that made her look like she was lit from within. But it was her eyes that stopped his heart. Vertically slitted pupils in irises the color of burnished gold. My name is Lyra Nystowery, she said. Sovereign commander of the Aldebaran Alliance and ruler of the 47 systems of the Cygnus Arm. She stepped closer, her eyes scanning him with unnerving intensity. And you, Dr. Nathan Reed, are my genetically predestined mate. Nathan's laugh was sharp and edged with hysteria. That's insane. The Seekers outside disagree, she replied. They're assassination units sent by the Council. They want you dead before our genetic bond can be completed. Lady, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a doctor from South Boston. Your genetic sequence contains a rare mutation that appears in only 1 human per generation. We've been monitoring Earth for centuries, waiting for the right match. She held up a device that projected a spinning double helix in the air between them. Your DNA is the counterpart to mine. This is crazy, Nathan said, trying to stand but collapsing back as pain shot through his side. Lyra knelt beside him, her movements fluid as mercury. The weapon they used is designed to slowly dismantle your cellular structure. I can stop it, but you'll have to trust me. Why should I trust you? Because unlike them, she nodded toward the door, I don't want to kill you. And because right now, I'm your only chance of living through the night. Outside, something heavy slammed against the warehouse door. Metal groaned. They're here, Lyra said, her voice eerily calm. She placed a small silver disc against the wound in Nathan's side. Immediate relief flooded through him as the burning sensation receded. Why me? He asked, his voice steadier. The universe is rarely random, Dr. Reed. Our meeting was written in the stars long before either of us was born. She helped him to his feet. We need to move. My ship is docked beneath the harbor. A spaceship, under Boston Harbor. Nathan shook his head. Of course it is. The warehouse door buckled inward with a screech of twisting metal. Lyra's hand closed around his wrist, her skin cool and smooth against his. You have a choice to make, she said, golden eyes locked on his. Stay and die, or come with me and discover why the most powerful beings in the galaxy fear what we might become together. From the ruined doorway, 3 figures entered, humanoid but wrong in subtle, terrifying ways. Their skin shifted like oil over water, and their eyes reflected light like a predator's in the dark. "Time's up, Dr. Reed," Lyra whispered. "What's it going to be?" Nathan had exactly 1 second to decide before the first seeker launched across the warehouse floor, moving faster than any human possibly could. Lyra shoved him behind her and raised her hand. A pulse of blue energy erupted from her palm, catching the attacker mid-leap. The creature hung suspended, its body contorting unnaturally. "Yes or no, Nathan?" Lyra's voice remained calm despite the strain visible on her face as she held the struggling seeker. "Yes. God, yes." She slammed her free hand against a panel on the wall. The floor beneath them dropped away, and they plummeted down a dark shaft. Nathan's stomach lurched into his throat as they fell. The seeker's inhuman shrieks echoed above them, growing fainter. They landed on something that gave slightly under their weight, a platform made of the same shimmering material as Lyra's clothing. It immediately began moving horizontally through a tunnel lit by strips of pale blue light. "What the hell were those things?" Nathan gasped, clutching his side. The silver disc had stopped the burning, but the wound itself still throbbed. Genetic constructs. Living weapons created by the Aldebaran High Council. Lyra knelt beside him, examining the wound. "They don't think independently. They're programmed for one purpose, in this case your elimination. Why does the Council want me dead? What is this genetic bond thing?" Lyra's expression shifted, revealing a hint of vulnerability. "My species is dying, Nathan. We've achieved near immortality and mastery over thousands of worlds, but we can no longer reproduce naturally. For centuries, we've been creating new generations in laboratories, but genetic decay is accelerating." The tunnel widened into a vast underground chamber. Nathan's jaw dropped. Suspended above a section of Boston Harbor, the water held back by some invisible force, hovered a vessel unlike anything he'd ever seen. It wasn't large, perhaps the size of a yacht, but it seemed to bend light around itself, making it difficult to focus on directly. "Your DNA contains a natural solution to our genetic degradation. A compatible human appears approximately every 70 years. The last was a woman from Chicago in 1954, Catherine Miller. She was killed before we could reach her. So I'm just—" "What? A breeding specimen?" Nathan felt sick. "No." Lyra's voice hardened. "You are my equal. The bond we could form goes far beyond reproduction. It would create something new, a genetic bridge between our species that threatens the Council's control. They've ruled through genetic superiority for millennia. A human Aldebaran hybrid with our abilities would shatter their power structure." The platform docked with the ship. A seamless entrance appeared in the hull. "I won't force you, Nathan. But know this. Even if you refuse me, they'll still hunt you. Your genetic potential alone is enough to mark you for death." Inside the ship, Nathan struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. The interior seemed larger than the exterior, with walls that pulsed with faint light in rhythm with Lyra's movements. "This is insane," he murmured, touching a wall cautiously. "Felt warm, almost alive. I was in the middle of my shift at Mass General yesterday. Now I'm in an alien spaceship with the Queen of the Galaxy." "Sovereign Commander," Lyra corrected, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Queens are hereditary. I earned my position." Nathan sank into a seat that formed beneath him. "How? Tell me how someone becomes ruler of 47 star systems. The same way you became a doctor. Sacrifice, study, determination." She touched a panel, and the ship hummed to life around them. "I was born on a mining colony in the outer reaches, a half-breed Mother Aldebaran, father from a subjugated race. I fought my way into the military academy when such things weren't permitted for my kind. The ship rose silently, the water above them parting without resistance. I rose through the ranks during the Proxima rebellions. When the previous commander was assassinated, I was the only officer who could hold the alliance together. Her eyes met his. I understand what it means to be an outsider, Nathan. Perhaps that's part of our compatibility. Above them, the night sky opened up. Nathan watched the lights of Boston shrink below as they accelerated upward. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. "Now we run." Lyra's expression darkened. "The Council will send more than seekers once they learn you've left Earth with me. They'll call it treason. Claim I've abandoned my duty." She gestured to a window that suddenly appeared, showing Earth falling away below them. "I'm sorry to take you from your home, but we need time. Time for you to understand what's happening, and time for me to prepare for what comes next." Nathan stared at the rapidly shrinking blue planet. "I don't have much to leave behind. My ex-wife remarried last year. Parents both gone. No kids." He looked at Lyra. "But I had patients. People who needed me." "I know," she said softly. "I've watched you for months. Your compassion is rare. You heal because you care, not for status or wealth. You've been watching me since your DNA registered on our scanners. I needed to know if you were worthy of the chaos your existence would create." A small smile touched her lips. "You talk to coma patients when no one else is around. You pay for medications for patients who can't afford them. You're a good man, Nathan Reed." Something explosive hit the ship, sending them both sprawling. "They found us faster than I expected," Lyra said, her voice suddenly hard as she jumped to her feet. "The Council must have had a contingency in place." Through the viewport, Nathan saw 3 black ships in pursuit, sleek and predatory. "Hold on," Lyra commanded, placing her palms on the control interface. The ship lurched forward with impossible acceleration, the stars stretching into lines around them. Nathan gripped his seat as the force threatened to tear him apart. Just before he blacked out, he heard Lyra's voice, cool and determined. "Welcome to the war, Dr. Reed." Nathan regained consciousness to the rhythmic beeping of medical equipment, familiar yet subtly wrong. He was lying on a bed that conformed to his body, in a room bathed in soft blue light. His side no longer hurt. "The dermal regeneration is complete," Lyra said from nearby. "Your physiology responds well to our medical technology." Nathan sat up cautiously, touching his side. Where the wound had been, he found only smooth skin. "Where are we?" "A mining outpost in the Kuiper Belt, still in your solar system, but far enough from Earth that we can regroup." Lyra stood by a viewport showing a landscape of ice and rock, distant stars glittering against the blackness of space. "We lost our pursuers, but not for long." "This is real," Nathan murmured. "I kept thinking I'd wake up." "Your adaptation is impressive. Most humans experience psychological breakdown when faced with such a paradigm shift." She handed him a cup of something warm that smelled like cinnamon. "This will help stabilize your neurotransmitter levels." The liquid tasted better than it had any right to, like the perfect blend of coffee and hot chocolate with spices he couldn't identify. Immediately, his mind felt sharper. "You said you earned your position," Nathan said, studying her. In the blue light, she looked less alien, more like a striking woman with unusual coloring. "Tell me more about that." Lyra's expression softened. "I commanded the fleet that ended the Proxima War. 16 worlds were in open rebellion against Aldebaran rule, rightfully so. The previous commander ordered their complete destruction." Her voice grew quiet. "I disobeyed. Instead of annihilation, I negotiated peace. granted the world's partial autonomy within the alliance. And they made you ruler for disobeying orders? They made me ruler because I prevented a genocide while still preserving the alliance. Because I proved that compromise was stronger than conquest. She sat beside him. The council never forgave me. They've spent decades waiting for me to make a mistake they could exploit. And I'm that mistake? In their eyes. To them, I'm a half-breed who rose above her station, now compounding her offense by seeking union with a primitive species. Nathan sipped his drink, processing. These Aldebarans sound like assholes. To his surprise, Lyra laughed. A clear, genuine sound. A succinct assessment. They've ruled for so long they believe it their divine right. But they're dying out. Each generation is weaker, fewer in number. They compensate with technology and genetic engineering, but they're fighting a losing battle. And our bond would threaten that. How exactly? The Aldebaran-human genetic combination could create offspring with our abilities but without our weaknesses, immune to the degradation affecting my species, capable of natural reproduction. She hesitated. But more importantly, you and I together could access an ancient power. The texts call it the convergence, a melding of minds that amplifies psychic abilities exponentially. Psychic abilities? Nathan raised an eyebrow. Like mind reading? In answer, Lyra raised her hand. The cup Nathan was holding floated gently from his grasp, hovering between them. Telekinesis, telepathy, cellular manipulation, energy projection, abilities that manifest in varying degrees among Aldebarans, but are magnified when we form a genetic bond with a compatible partner. The ship shuddered suddenly. Warning lights pulsed along the walls. We've been found. Lyra moved swiftly to a control panel. A council enforcement vessel. We need to leave immediately. I thought we lost them. They're tracking us through me, through a quantum signature in my biology that all Aldebarans carry. She manipulated controls rapidly. We need to reach my allies in the Chicago enclave. There's an alien enclave in Chicago? Established after World War II. One of 12 on Earth. The ship hummed to life around them. Humans aren't as alone as you think, Nathan. The viewport showed a massive ship approaching, angular and threatening, bristling with weapons. That enforcement vessel carries enough firepower to vaporize a small moon, Lyra said grimly. We can't outrun it, but we might outmaneuver it. The smaller ship shot forward, skimming the surface of the icy planetoid beneath them. The larger vessel fired, massive energy beams cutting through the vacuum where they'd been seconds before. Why Chicago? Nathan asked, gripping his seat as they dove between two massive ice formations. Because that's where we'll find Dr. Eliza Chun, the great-granddaughter of Catherine Miller, the compatible human from 1954. Lyra's hands danced across the controls. She inherited fragments of her grandmother's altered DNA. She's been studying it her entire life, though she doesn't fully understand its origins. And she can help us? She's developed a compound that can temporarily mask quantum signatures. If she can adapt it to my biology, we might disappear long enough to formulate a plan. Another blast rocked the ship. Alarms blared. Hull breach in the engine compartment, Lyra announced, her voice tight. We need to make an emergency landing. Where? Nathan looked out at the barren landscape. Earth is our only option. We won't reach Chicago. Her golden eyes met his. I need to trust you now, Nathan. I need to trust that you won't abandon me once we're back among your people. The ship plummeted toward Earth, trailing fire through the atmosphere. Nathan watched Lyra fighting with the controls, her face set in grim determination. Despite everything, the insanity of the past day, the danger, the impossible situation, He found himself admiring her strength, her composure under pressure. "I won't abandon you," he said, realizing he meant it. "Where do we land?" "New Orleans," Lyra replied, wrestling with the failing controls. "I have an ally there. Someone who can help us disappear." As Earth's surface rushed up to meet them, Nathan wondered how many more secrets this galactic queen was keeping, and just how deep into her war he'd allowed. They hit the Mississippi Delta hard, the ship's emergency systems barely managing to slow their descent enough to survive. Water rushed in through the damaged hull as they sank into the murky bayou waters 30 miles south of New Orleans. "We need to move," Lyra said, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead, silver blue rather than red. "The ship's self-destruct will activate in 3 minutes. The Council can't be allowed to recover this technology." Nathan helped her to her feet, noticing how she favored her right leg. "You're hurt." "It's minor. Aldebaran's heal quickly." She pressed her palm against a wall panel, which slid open to reveal a compartment containing what looked like ordinary human clothing. "Change quickly. We need to blend in." Nathan turned his back as they both changed, Lyra into jeans and a loose-fitting shirt that concealed her height and unusual proportions, Nathan into clothes that eerily matched his usual style. She'd been prepared for this. "What about your appearance?" he asked, gesturing to her luminescent hair and golden eyes. From a small case, she removed what looked like contact lenses and a vial of liquid. The lenses turned her alien eyes a normal human brown. The liquid, rubbed through her hair, dulled its glow to a platinum blonde that could pass for human. "My skin tone will be attributed to unusual fashion choices," she said, applying a faint blue-tinted powder to accentuate rather than hide the subtle blue undertone of her skin. "Humans are wonderfully accepting of eccentricity in certain contexts. They escaped through an emergency hatch, wading through chest-deep swamp water until they reached firmer ground. Behind them, the ship sank deeper, only a faint glow beneath the murky surface indicating its presence. Minutes later, a subtle vibration passed through the water, and the glow disappeared completely. "Gone," Lyra murmured. 20 years of modifications erased." "You loved that ship," Nathan observed, surprised by the emotion in her voice. "It was a gift from my mother before she died." Lyra squared her shoulders. "We need to keep moving. Council operatives will investigate the crash site within hours." They hiked through the bayou as night fell, guided by Lyra's uncanny ability to navigate in the darkness. Cypress trees draped with Spanish moss loomed around them. The sounds of the swamp, insects, frogs, the occasional splash of something moving through water, creating an eerie symphony. "Your ally in New Orleans," Nathan began, swatting at mosquitoes. "Another alien?" Himself to fall. "No. Very human. Marcus Williams. His great-grandfather encountered Aldebarans during World War II. A reconnaissance mission gone wrong. Instead of reporting it, he helped them escape." Lyra pushed aside a low-hanging branch. "His family has been part of our network ever since. Marcus runs a jazz club in the French Quarter that serves as a meeting point for non-humans on Earth." "How many aliens are on Earth exactly?" "More than human suspect, fewer than would cause alarm. Most are refugees, researchers, or diplomats." She stopped suddenly, holding up her hand. "Listen." Nathan heard it then. The faint whir of engines, too steady to be an aircraft. Searchlights swept through the trees in the distance, moving in a grid pattern. "They found the crash site faster than I anticipated," Lyra murmured. "We need to reach civilization before they widen their search." They changed direction, moving parallel to the search pattern. After another hour of trudging through the swamp, lights appeared ahead. A small airboat dock with a weathered bait shop, still open despite the late hour. A grizzled man in overalls sat on the porch, smoking a cigarette. Lyra touched Nathan's arm, her voice low. "Let me do the talking. Your accent will mark you as an outsider." "I'm from Boston. You're from another planet," Nathan whispered back. "And I've spent years studying human regional dialects. Trust me." They approached the bait shop, and Lyra transformed before Nathan's eyes. Her posture changed, her walk became a slight sway, and when she spoke to the man, her voice carried the perfect Louisiana drawl. "Evenin', sir. My husband and I had ourselves a bit of trouble out on the water. Boat engine died, and we had to paddle to shore a ways back. Any chance you could give us a ride into the city? We'd pay real well for the trouble." The man squinted at them suspiciously, taking in their mud-covered clothes and Lyra's unusual appearance. "Mighty late for tourists to be out in the bayou." "Anniversary trip?" Lyra smiled, slipping her arm through Nathan's. "My man here wanted to see the sunset over the swamp. Romantic fool didn't check the engine first." The old man's eyes softened slightly. "Y'all look like you been through the wars." He stood up, crushing out his cigarette. "I was headed home to the city anyway. 300 cash, no questions asked." "Deal," Lyra said, producing a wad of American currency from her pocket. 20 minutes later, they were skimming across the dark water in the man's airboat, the lights of New Orleans glowing on the horizon. Nathan leaned close to Lyra's ear. "Where did you get American money?" "I've been preparing for this possibility for months," she replied quietly. "Ever since your DNA registered on our scanners." The implication hit him. "You knew this would happen? That we'd be running for our lives?" "I knew the council would try to eliminate you once they discovered your existence. I hoped to reach you first, bring you into our protection gradually." Her expression darkened. "Someone leaked your location to the council before I could implement that plan." "You think someone betrayed you?" "One of your people. Someone with access to highly classified information." Her eyes, brown now with the contacts, still managed to convey the intensity of her true gaze. "The list of possibilities is troublingly short." The airboat reached the outskirts of New Orleans, docking at a small marina where the old man kept his word. No questions, just a gruff nod before he disappeared into the night. They caught a taxi into the French Quarter, the driver barely glancing at their muddy clothes. The Midnight Crescent Jazz Club was tucked away on a side street, its blue neon sign casting an otherworldly glow over the cobblestones. Despite the late hour, music spilled from the open doors, a haunting saxophone solo that seemed to call to them. "Marcus's father was a renowned jazz musician," Lyra explained as they approached. "The family business serves as perfect cover for their other activities." Inside, the club was dimly lit and half full, the patrons a mix of tourists and locals. On stage, a quintet played, led by a tall black man on saxophone whose fingers moved with impossible speed over the instrument. He looked up as they entered, his eyes locking on Lyra. Without missing a note, he nodded subtly toward a door behind the bar. They made their way through the crowd, Lyra's hand firmly in Nathan's. At the bar, a young woman with intricate braids took one look at them and wordlessly opened the door to the back room. Inside, the music was muffled. A spiral staircase led to an apartment above the club. At the top, Marcus Williams waited for them, his saxophone now hanging from a strap around his neck. "Sovereign Commander," he said, his deep voice respectful. "When I felt the quantum tremor, I feared the worst." "The worst has indeed come to pass, old friend," Lyra replied. "My ship is destroyed, the council has branded me a traitor, and I've dragged this innocent man into a war he didn't ask to join." Marcus turned to Nathan, studying him with eyes that seemed too knowing, too ancient for his face. Not so innocent, perhaps. Not anymore. He extended his hand. Welcome to the Resistance, Dr. Reed. I hope you're ready to help save two worlds. Marcus's apartment above the jazz club was a strange blend of Earth and elsewhere. Vintage New Orleans decor intermixed with objects that clearly didn't originate on this planet. A holographic star map occupied one wall, showing systems Nathan didn't recognize. Various musical instruments hung alongside weapons of unusual design. "You're not fully human," Nathan said to Marcus as the man handed them both towels to clean up. Marcus smiled, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp. "My grandmother had a particular fondness for an Aldebaran diplomat. The family secret." He tapped his temple. "Just enough alien DNA to give me certain advantages. Perfect pitch, enhanced reflexes, a touch of telepathy. Marcus has been our most valuable Earth-based operative for decades," Lyra explained, wiping mud from her face. "His club serves as neutral ground for various non-terrestrial factions. Speaking of which," Marcus said, his expression growing serious, "we have a situation developing. The Council has issued a galaxy-wide alert. They're claiming you've abducted a human for forbidden genetic experimentation." Lyra. "A convenient narrative," Lyra replied bitterly. "Easier than admitting they fear what our union represents. They've offered a reward for your capture that's drawn every bounty hunter in 3 sectors to Earth's vicinity." Marcus turned to a communication panel disguised as an antique radio. "And they've implemented full quarantine protocols for the Sol system. Nothing gets in or out without Council approval. We're trapped on Earth," Nathan realized. "For now," Lyra said. "But Earth has advantages. Billions of humans to hide among. And the Council's jurisdiction here is limited by treaties with your governments." "Wait," Nathan held up his hand. "Our governments know about aliens?" Marcus laughed. "Since the 1940s, Doctor. The Aldebaran Alliance made first official contact during the Cold War. Offered technology in exchange for limited settlement rights and non-interference agreements. Most humans in power know of our existence," Lyra added. "They simply recognize that public knowledge would cause more harm than good." Nathan sank into a chair, overwhelmed. "So what now? We just hide out in New Orleans while space bounty hunters search for us?" "No," Lyra said firmly. "We stick to the plan. We need to reach Dr. Chun in Chicago. Her compound is our best chance at evading Council detection long enough to formulate a strategy." She turned to Marcus. "We'll need clean identities and transport. Already arranged." Marcus retrieved a locked case from a hidden compartment in the floor. "I've been preparing since you first informed me of Dr. Reed's existence months ago." From the case, he produced passports, driver's licenses, credit cards, a complete identity package for both of them. Nathan stared at his new Massachusetts driver's license with the name Nathan Ellis and his photo. "These are perfect forgeries," he said, impressed despite himself. "Not forgeries," Marcus corrected. "They're real. My contacts ensured they're properly registered in all relevant databases. You're now officially Nathan Ellis, recently relocated from Boston to Chicago. And Lyra is now Lyra Ellis, your wife of 3 years." "My wife?" Nathan looked up sharply. "The simplest cover," Lyra explained, not meeting his eyes. "Humans rarely question married couples." "You'll leave for Chicago tomorrow morning," Marcus continued. "Commercial flight. The Council won't expect you to use such an exposed method of travel. They'll be watching private airfields and military installations." A soft chime sounded from the disguised communication panel. Marcus checked it, his expression darkening. "We have a problem. Council operatives are conducting building-by-building searches in the quarter. They're 2 blocks away and moving in this direction." How did they find us so quickly? Nathan asked. They didn't, Marcus replied, moving to a window to peek through the blinds. Standard search pattern. But they will find us if we're still here when they arrive. The tunnels, Lyra suggested. Marcus nodded. Fastest way out of the quarter undetected. He pressed a hidden switch, and a bookcase slid aside to reveal a narrow staircase leading down. These tunnels were used by smugglers during Prohibition. They'll take you to a safe house near the Garden District. He handed Lyra a small device. This will guide you. The safe house is fully stocked. Weapons, communications, emergency medical supplies. Stay there until morning, then take the train to Louis Armstrong International. Your flight leaves at 10:45 a.m. Shouts echoed from the street below. Through the window, they could see figures in dark clothing moving purposefully through the crowd, stopping people for questioning. Go now, Marcus urged, ushering them toward the tunnel entrance. I'll create a distraction. Be careful, old friend, Lyra said, clasping his hand. If they discover your connection to me. I've been evading council detection for 40 years, he smiled. Besides, they wouldn't dare move openly against me without risking exposure to the humans. Nathan followed Lyra into the tunnel, the bookcase sliding shut behind them. The passage was narrow and damp, lit only by the soft glow of Lyra's guide device. They moved quickly, the sounds of the jazz club fading behind them. What did you mean about the council's jurisdiction being limited on Earth? Nathan asked as they navigated the dark passageways. Earth falls under the Non-Interference Treaty of 2012, Lyra explained. The council can maintain observers and limited operations on your planet, but they cannot take military action or reveal themselves publicly without severe consequences. What kind of consequences? The Alliance is powerful but not invincible. Open violation of the treaty would unite several rival galactic powers against us. A war on multiple fronts that even the Council wouldn't survive. She paused at a junction, checking the guide device. This way, they turned right into an even narrower tunnel. Above them, they could hear the rumble of traffic. So they can't just blow up the planet to get to us, Nathan said, attempting humor. No, but they can send agents, hunter drones, and bribe human officials to do their work for them. Lyra's voice was grim. And if they capture us, they'll execute us in space, beyond Earth jurisdiction. After 20 minutes of navigating the winding tunnels, they emerged through a hidden door into the wine cellar of an elegant old mansion. The safe house, as Marcus had called it, was a beautifully preserved Garden District home, outwardly identical to the other historic houses on the tree-lined street. Lyra secured the entrance behind them and ran a scanner over the interior of the house before relaxing slightly. We're clear. No surveillance devices, no unwelcome guests. Nathan wandered through the house, taking in the blend of antique furniture and subtly advanced technology. In what appeared to be a study, he found a wall of books, real paper books, many of them first editions. How long has this network of yours existed on Earth? He asked when Lyra joined him. Since the 1940s, as Marcus said. We've maintained observation posts on Earth for centuries, but formal contact wasn't established until your species developed nuclear weapons. She ran her fingers along the book spines. Your sudden leap in technological capability prompted concerns among the Alliance leadership. Some advocated for preventive measures. You mean wiping us out before we became a threat? Yes, I argued against it. Humans have tremendous potential. Your adaptability, your creativity, your capacity for rapid technological advancement is unmatched in the galaxy. She selected a book, Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury, and opened it carefully. I've always been an advocate for your species. Nathan studied her in the soft lamplight. With her alien features disguised, she looked almost human, beautiful in an ethereal way, but human nonetheless. Yet there was something in her bearing, in the way she moved, that marked her as other. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Out of billions of humans, why am I the one with this compatible DNA?" Lyra closed the book, returning it to its place. Genetic compatibility is only part of it. The mutation must occur in someone with specific neurological traits, high empathy, acute pattern recognition, exceptional adaptive thinking. In every generation, perhaps a dozen humans develop the mutation, but only one will have the complete profile. And what happens if we complete this bond? What does that even mean? Something flashed in her eyes. Vulnerability, perhaps, or uncertainty. The texts describe it as a genetic and psychic fusion. Our DNA would partially merge, altering both of us at the cellular level. We would share certain abilities, certain aspects of consciousness. That sounds like science fiction. To your people, perhaps. Mine have been manipulating genetics for millennia. She stepped closer to him. The bond isn't just physical, Nathan. It creates a connection that transcends ordinary experience. The last confirmed bonded pair, over 300 years ago, could communicate telepathically across vast distances. They could share sensory experiences, even heal each other's injuries through focused intention. And the Council fears this because bonded pairs cannot be controlled. Because such a union between a high-ranking Aldebaran and a human would undermine their narrative of genetic superiority. And because she hesitated, then met his eyes directly. Because the last bonded pair nearly overthrew the Council. They led a rebellion that almost succeeded in fundamentally changing our social order. What happened to them? They were betrayed by someone they trusted, executed publicly as a warning. Lyra's voice hardened. Their child was raised in secret by loyalists. That child was my grandmother. The revelation hung in the air between them. Nathan felt as if he'd stumbled into a dynastic struggle far beyond his understanding. So this isn't just about genetic compatibility. It's about finishing what your ancestors started. It's about saving both our species, Lyra countered. The Council's policies are driving Aldebarans toward extinction through genetic stagnation while suppressing human advancement to maintain control. The bonded pairs of the past saw a better way: coexistence, mutual development, shared prosperity. A subtle vibration ran through the house, causing the chandelier above them to sway slightly. "What was that?" Nathan asked. Lyra moved quickly to a window, peering through the blinds. "Hunter drone. Low-altitude scan." She activated a panel disguised as a thermostat, and a faint hum filled the house. "The building's shields will mask our presence, but we should move away from the windows." In the kitchen, Lyra prepared a meal from supplies in the safe house while Nathan examined the various alien technologies disguised as ordinary human appliances. The refrigerator contained food labeled in script he couldn't read. The microwave had settings for molecular reconfiguration. "Your people have been living among humans for almost a century," Nathan mused. "And yet most of us have no idea. Humans see what they expect to see," Lyra replied, setting 2 plates on the table. A blue tint to someone's skin becomes an unusual fashion choice. Remarkable abilities become circus tricks or optical illusions. You've had the truth hidden in plain sight for generations. In your fiction, your conspiracy theories, your unexplained phenomena. The food was delicious, similar to Earth cuisine, but with subtle differences in flavor and texture that Nathan couldn't quite identify. "Tomorrow we fly to Chicago," he said between bites. "What exactly do we need from Dr. Chun? Her compound can temporarily alter my quantum signature, make me undetectable to Council scanners. But more importantly, She's been researching the genetic anomalies in her family for years. She may have insights about the bonding process that were lost when the Council purged our historical archives. And if she helps us, the Council will target her too. Lyra nodded grimly. I won't lie to you, Nathan. Everyone who aids us is at risk. That's why we need to move quickly, complete the bond, and take the fight back to the Council before more innocent people are hurt. Later, as they prepared for sleep in separate rooms of the safe house, Nathan found himself standing at his window, staring up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, powerful beings were hunting him because of DNA he never asked for, because of a woman he'd just met, because of a cosmic conflict he'd been thrust into without warning. Yet despite everything, he felt strangely alive, more present, more aware than he'd been in years. His life in Boston seemed distant now, routine and predictable in a way he hadn't fully recognized until it was stripped away. A soft knock on his door pulled him from his thoughts. Lyra stood there, her alien eyes now uncovered, glowing softly in the darkness. I couldn't sleep, she said simply. I wanted to make sure you were coping, as well as can be expected, he replied with a half-smile. Not every day you find out you're genetically destined to bond with an alien queen, sovereign commander, and save the galaxy. I know it's overwhelming. That's an understatement. Lyra moved to stand beside him at the window, both of them looking up at the stars. When I was a child on the mining colony, I used to stare at the stars and dream of escape, of finding a place where I belonged. I never imagined I would find that belonging with a human. You say that like it's already decided. She turned to him, her expression serious. The compatibility is genetic fact, Nathan, but the choice to act on it remains yours. I won't force this bond. If, after we've secured Dr. Chen's help, you wish to return to your life here, I will ensure your protection and leave you in peace. The sincerity in her voice touched something in him. Despite her power, her alien nature, there was vulnerability there, a loneliness he recognized because he'd carried a similar weight for years. Get some sleep, he said gently. We have a plane to catch tomorrow. She nodded and turned to leave, then paused at the door. Whatever you decide, Nathan Reed, know that meeting you has already changed me. Perhaps that was always the true purpose of the bond. Not power or politics, but transformation. As she disappeared down the hall, Nathan returned his gaze to the stars, wondering which of those distant points of light was Aldebaran, and what transformation awaited him if he embraced this cosmic connection. O'Hare International Airport buzzed with the usual chaos of a busy travel day. Nathan and Lyra moved through the crowded terminal, their new identities having passed scrutiny at security without issue. To casual observers, they were just another couple, perhaps slightly unusual given Lyra's height and striking appearance, but nothing to warrant special attention. Stay close, Lyra murmured as they approached the baggage claim. Council operatives often monitor transportation hubs. Nathan scanned the crowd, suddenly seeing the faces around him differently. How would I recognize them? You wouldn't. Their Earth-based agents are either humans on their payroll or genetically modified Aldebarans designed to blend perfectly with your species. She subtly indicated a man in a TSA uniform watching the arrivals. Like him. Notice how he's not actually checking passengers, just observing. The TSA agent's gaze swept over them without pausing, but Nathan felt a chill. Is he looking for us specifically? Likely running general surveillance. The Council knows we escaped New Orleans, but they can't know our destination yet. She guided him toward the exit. Marcus arranged a car for us. It should be waiting in short-term parking. The vehicle, an unremarkable sedan with Illinois plates, contained a secured phone and an address programmed into the navigation system. As they drove through Chicago's sprawling expressways, Nathan studied Lyra, who was monitoring a small device that scanned for surveillance. "Tell me about Dr. Chun," he said. "How much does she know about her grandmother and the Aldebarans?" Catherine Miller, her grandmother, was never reached by our operatives. She was killed in what appeared to be a random mugging in 1954, but was actually a council assassination. Lyra's expression darkened. However, she was 3 months pregnant when she died. The hospital saved the child, Dr. Chen's mother, who inherited fragments of the genetic mutation, and Dr. Chun inherited it from her mother? Not the complete sequence, but enough to make her unique. She experienced unexplained phenomena throughout her childhood, prophetic dreams, minor telekinetic incidents, unusual healing abilities. Eventually, she channeled these experiences into scientific study, becoming a geneticist specializing in evolutionary anomalies. Does she know the truth about her grandmother? No. She believes she's studying a rare human mutation. Her research foundation, the Miller Institute for Genetic Advancement, has been secretly funded by our network for decades, but she remains unaware of the extraterrestrial connection. Nathan frowned. "You're using her. We're protecting her," Lyra countered. "If she knew the full truth, she would be in greater danger. The Council has a standing elimination order for all genetic descendants of compatible humans. The navigation system directed them to a modern research facility on the outskirts of the city, a sleek building of glass and steel surrounded by carefully landscaped grounds. Security was visible but discreet. Guards at the entrance, surveillance cameras monitoring the perimeter. "How do we get in?" Nathan asked. "I doubt we can just walk up and ask for Dr. Chun." "We don't need to." Lyra checked her watch. "In approximately 3 minutes, she'll come to us." "How could you possibly know that?" "Because I sent her an anonymous message this morning claiming to have information about a genetic anomaly in her family line. Her calendar showed she was free at this time. Her psychological profile indicates intense curiosity about her family's genetic history." True to Lyra's prediction, at precisely 3:15 p.m., a woman emerged from the building and walked toward the visitors' parking area. She was in her early 40s, with short black hair streaked with premature gray, wearing a lab coat over business attire. Lyra started the car and pulled alongside her. The window lowered silently. "Dr. Eliza Chun?" Lyra said. The woman stopped, wariness immediately visible in her posture. "Who's asking?" "Someone who knows why you can sometimes move objects without touching them. Why you dream of events before they happen. Why conventional medicine has never worked quite right on your system." Lyra's voice was calm, authoritative. "Someone who can explain the mutation you've been studying your entire career." Dr. Chen's expression shifted from suspicion to shock. "How do you know about?" "Not here," Lyra interrupted. "We need to speak privately. Your life may depend on it." For a moment, Nathan thought Chen would call security. Instead, after a tense pause, she opened the rear door and slid into the back seat. "Drive," she instructed, her voice tight with controlled alarm. "There's a coffee shop 3 blocks east. Public enough to be safe, private enough to talk." 10 minutes later, they sat in a corner booth of a nearly empty cafe. Dr. Chun studied them both with the clinical gaze of a scientist assessing specimens. "You're not fully human," she said abruptly to Lyra. "Your skeletal structure, the spectral range of your skin pigmentation, subtle, but present to someone who knows what to look for." Lyra inclined her head slightly. "Impressive observation. I've spent my life studying genetic outliers. You qualify." Chun turned to Nathan. "You, however, appear completely human, yet there's something." She narrowed her eyes. "You have it, don't you?" The full expression of the mutation I've only found fragments of in my family line. That's what we're here to discuss, Lyra said. But first, we need to know about your compound, the quantum signature suppressor you've been developing. Chen's body language changed instantly, becoming guarded. That research is classified. How do you know about it? Because we've been funding it, Lyra replied, through shell corporations and research grants. The Miller Foundation itself was established with our resources. Who are we exactly? Lyra glanced around the cafe, ensuring no one was within earshot. The simplest explanation is that I am not from Earth, Dr. Chun. I represent a faction of my species that has maintained contact with certain humans for decades. Your grandmother, Catherine Miller, was genetically compatible with my kind in a way that occurs in only one human per generation. Chen's scientific skepticism warred visibly with the evidence before her eyes. That's impossible, is it? Lyra removed one of her contact lenses, revealing a golden, vertically slitted pupil. More impossible than the unexplained abilities you've experienced your entire life? More impossible than the anomalous DNA segments you've isolated in your own cells but have never been able to fully classify. The color drained from Chen's face. The dreams, she whispered. The ones I've had since childhood. A world with 3 moons and buildings that reached into the clouds. Was that? Genetic memory, Lyra confirmed, replacing the contact lens. Fragments of your grandmother's potential bond, passed down through modified DNA. Nathan watched the scientist process this information, her brilliant mind visibly connecting dots that had eluded her for decades. Your compound, he said gently. We need it. There are others of her kind who want us dead because of what we represent. Which is what, exactly? Chen asked. The potential for a true symbiosis between our species, Lyra answered. A genetic bridge that could save my people from extinction and accelerate human development by centuries. Chun was silent for a long moment, absently stirring her untouched coffee. When I was 8 years old, she finally said, I had a fever of 106 degrees. The doctors said I shouldn't have survived. That night, I dreamed of a woman with silver hair and golden eyes who put her hand on my forehead and pulled the sickness away. She looked up at Lyra. Was that real? Was that one of your kind? Possibly. We've watched over your family for generations. Why didn't you ever tell me the truth? To protect you, Nathan interjected. The same people hunting us now would have eliminated you if they knew you were actively seeking answers. Chen's scientific curiosity seemed to overcome her shock. My compound, it was designed to mask quantum-level cellular vibrations in cancer patients for targeted therapy. How does that help you? My species emits a specific quantum signature that can be tracked across vast distances, Lyra explained. Your compound, with some modification, could temporarily suppress that signature, allowing us to move undetected. And what happens once you have it? What's your plan? We need to complete the genetic bond, Lyra said, gesturing between herself and Nathan. Once that's done, we'll have the ability to challenge the ruling council directly, to end their oppressive policies toward both our species. Chun stood abruptly. Come with me to the lab. Not the main facility, I have a private research space in my home. If what you're saying is true, I want to run tests, see the comparative genetic markers for myself. As they followed Dr. Chun to her car, Nathan whispered to Lyra, You're not telling her everything, are you? About the danger she's in just by helping us. She's a scientist, Lyra replied quietly. The pursuit of knowledge is worth the risk to her. Besides, she deserves to know her true heritage, what was stolen from her grandmother. Chen's home in Lincoln Park was both residence and laboratory. The entire third floor had been converted into a state-of-the-art research facility, equipment humming softly as they entered. "I'll need blood samples from both of you," she said, already moving with the focused efficiency of a researcher on the brink of discovery. "And I want to run a full spectral analysis on your quantum signature," she added, pointing to Lyra. For the next several hours, Chun worked tirelessly, moving between equipment, occasionally exclaiming in surprise or murmuring to herself. Nathan and Lyra sat nearby, answering her rapid-fire questions as she processed the data. "This is extraordinary," Chun said finally, staring at a display showing 2 DNA helices side by side, Nathan's and Lyra's. "There's a complementary sequence here that I've never seen before. When combined, these gene segments would create entirely new protein structures." She looked up, her eyes bright with scientific excitement. "The potential applications are limitless. Cellular regeneration, enhanced neural processing, extended lifespan. And the compound?" Lyra pressed. "Can you modify it to mask my signature?" Chun nodded slowly. "I believe so. The principle is similar to what I've been working on. I'll need about 12 hours to synthesize a version tailored to your specific quantum frequency." A soft beeping from Lyra's pocket interrupted them. She pulled out a small device, her expression instantly hardening. "What is it?" Nathan asked. "Proximity alert. Council operatives within a 2-mile radius, moving in this direction." She turned to Chun. "We don't have 12 hours. They've found us." Chun moved quickly to a security panel, checking exterior cameras. "How would they know to look here?" "They must have identified you as Catherine Miller's descendant," Lyra said grimly. "They're likely monitoring all potential allies." "Then we need to leave," Nathan urged. "No," Chun countered. "My lab is shielded, a Faraday cage with additional protections I developed for sensitive experiments. They can't detect you inside this room." She moved to a workstation and began rapidly preparing equipment. "I can synthesize a basic version of the compound in 2 hours. It won't be as effective or long-lasting, but it should confuse their tracking systems temporarily." Lyra studied the security feed. 6 operatives moving systematically through the neighborhood. Standard search pattern. "We have perhaps 90 minutes before they reach this house." "Then let's make them count," Chun said, her hands steady as she worked. "And while I do this, you're going to tell me everything about my grandmother, about this council, about what really happens when this genetic bond is completed." As Chun worked feverishly on the compound, Lyra revealed the full history: the centuries-long presence of Aldebarans on Earth, the genetic program that identified compatible humans, the rebellion that had nearly succeeded generations ago, and the Council's ruthless suppression of human advancement to maintain control. "So my grandmother was assassinated because she could have changed the balance of power," Chun said, carefully mixing chemicals. "And now the same people want you dead for the same reason." "Yes," Lyra acknowledged. "And once they realize you've helped us, they'll come for you too." Chen's hands paused briefly over her work. "I've spent my entire life searching for answers, feeling different without understanding why. I'm not about to stop now that I finally know the truth." She resumed her precise measurements. "Besides, I've always had a problem with authority. Apparently it's genetic." Nathan watched her work, impressed by her composure in the face of world-shattering revelations. "What happens after we take the compound? Where do we go?" "To complete the bond, we need privacy and security," Lyra said. "There's a facility in northern Michigan, an observatory officially, but actually one of our oldest outposts on Earth. It has the equipment we'll need to monitor and stabilize the bonding process. And then we take the fight to the Council." Lyra's voice hardened. "With our combined abilities, we can finally expose their crimes, force reforms, establish a true alliance between our species based on equality rather than control. Chun looked up from her work. You're talking about revolution. I'm talking about evolution, Lyra corrected. The natural next step for both our species. The proximity alarm beeped again, more urgently this time. On the security monitors, they could see council operatives only blocks away, moving door to door. Almost done, Chun said, her focus unwavering despite the approaching danger. But I should warn you, this compound is experimental. There could be side effects. What kind of side effects? Nathan asked. Heightened sensory perception, possible telepathic breakthrough, accelerated cellular activity. Chun carefully filled a syringe with the bluish liquid she'd created. In other words, it might accelerate the very bonding process you're trying to control. Lyra and Nathan exchanged glances. We'll risk it, Lyra decided. We don't have a choice. Chun administered the injection to Lyra, who winced slightly as the compound entered her system. Almost immediately, her skin tone shifted, the subtle blue undertone fading completely. I can feel it working, she said, her voice tight with discomfort. My cellular vibration is changing. On one of Chen's instruments, a reading that had been steady suddenly fluctuated and dropped. It's working, Chen confirmed. Your quantum signature is being suppressed. She quickly filled a small case with additional vials of the compound. This is all I can synthesize for now. Each dose will last approximately 6 hours. The proximity alarm blared again, a continuous tone this time. Chun checked the security feed and paled. They're here. On my street. Nathan moved to the window, carefully peering out. 2 black SUVs had parked across the street, and figures in dark clothing were approaching Chen's house with measured steps. Is there another way out? He asked urgently. The garage connects to an alley behind the house, Chen replied, already moving to a cabinet where she retrieved a small handgun. At Nathan's surprised look, she shrugged. Research gets competitive. Back door is through the kitchen. They moved swiftly through the house, Chun leading the way. As they reached the kitchen, the front doorbell rang, followed by an authoritative knock. Dr. Chun? Federal agents. We need to speak with you. Chun motioned for them to continue toward the garage while she moved toward the front door. I'll delay them. Go. They'll kill you once they realize you've helped us, Lyra warned. Not if they can't prove it. Chun pressed the case of compound vials into Lyra's hands. I'm a respected scientist with government contracts. They can't move against me without evidence. Now go. Complete what my grandmother couldn't. A more insistent pounding at the front door. Dr. Chan. Open up immediately. With a final grateful look at Chen, Nathan and Lyra slipped into the garage. Chen's car, a practical electric sedan, sat ready. As Nathan started the vehicle, they could hear Chen's voice through the door, confidently addressing the agents with the practiced irritation of a researcher interrupted in her work. They slipped out through the alley just as additional agents were moving to cover the rear of the house. Nathan drove carefully, maintaining exactly the speed limit, turning at random to ensure they weren't followed. Will she be okay? He asked, glancing at Lyra. Dr. Chan is more capable than she appears, Lyra replied, though concern was evident in her voice. And she's right, the Council operates within constraints on Earth. They can't simply eliminate a prominent human scientist without consequences. As they drove north out of Chicago, heading toward the Michigan border, Nathan noticed Lyra's breathing becoming irregular, her skin flushing slightly. Are you all right? The compound, she managed, her voice strained. Chun was right about the side effects. It's accelerating cellular changes. She placed her hand on the car's dashboard to steady herself. And it's affecting my perception. I can sense your thoughts, Nathan. Not clearly, but they're there, like whispers just beyond hearing. That's the bonding process starting, isn't it? Yes, she confirmed, her golden eyes bright with intensity. We may not have the luxury of reaching the observatory before it progresses further. She turned to face him fully. Are you certain this is what you want? Once begun, the process cannot be reversed. Nathan kept his eyes on the road, acutely aware that his next words would change the course of not just his life, but potentially two worlds. I've been running since you found me, he said quietly. Running from assassins, from aliens, from the truth about what's happening between us. I'm tired of running. He reached across the console to take her hand, feeling an electric jolt at the contact. Whatever this bond is, whatever we become together, I'm ready. As they crossed the state line into Michigan, heading toward an uncertain future, the first subtle tendrils of Lyra's consciousness began to intertwine with his own. The first steps in a transformation that would challenge the power structure of a galaxy. Part 7. The Northern Michigan Observatory stood alone on a wooded hillside, its white dome gleaming in the moonlight. From the outside, it appeared to be nothing more than what its cover suggested. A small research facility dedicated to astronomical studies. Only the sophisticated security system and the unusual patterns of the satellite dishes hinted at its true purpose. Nathan parked Chen's car in a concealed garage built into the hillside. Lyra was deteriorating rapidly, the unexpected side effects of the compound intensifying. Her skin fluctuated between its natural blue tint and normal human coloration, and she moved with difficulty, as if her nervous system was misfiring. The entrance, she gasped, pointing to what appeared to be a maintenance door. Biometric scanner. Nathan helped her to the door, supporting much of her weight. Lyra pressed her palm against a seemingly ordinary panel, which immediately illuminated with a blue light that scanned her hand. Sovereign Commander Nystauri recognized, announced a synthetic voice as the door slid open. Emergency protocols activated. Inside, the facility revealed its true nature. What looked like an ordinary observatory from outside was actually a sophisticated alien outpost. The central chamber housed what appeared to be medical equipment arranged around a raised platform. Holographic displays activated automatically as they entered, filling the air with data streams in Aldebaran script. Help me to the stabilization chamber, Lyra directed, indicating the platform. Nathan guided her to it, watching in amazement as it reconfigured itself to form a contoured bed. Lyra lay back, her breathing labored, her eyes now glowing with unnatural brightness. The compound is breaking down the barriers between our quantum signatures, she explained between ragged breaths, accelerating a process that should happen gradually. What can I do? Nathan asked, his doctor's instincts kicking in despite the alien technology surrounding them. The neural interface. She pointed to what looked like a delicate circlet of silver metal on a nearby console. Place it on my head, then use the second one for yourself. Nathan followed her instructions, placing the first circlet gently on Lyra's forehead. It immediately conformed to the shape of her skull, tiny filaments extending to make contact with her skin. He hesitated only briefly before putting the second circlet on his own head, flinching as he felt the cool touch of the filaments against his temples. Immediately, his perception altered. The room seemed to expand and contract with each heartbeat. Colors intensified, and he became acutely aware of every sound. The hum of the equipment, the whisper of air through ventilation systems, Lyra's labored breathing. More startling, he could feel her presence in his mind, not as thoughts or words, but as emotions, sensations, fragments of memories. The experience was disorienting, overwhelming. Focus. Lyra's voice came both from her lips and somehow inside his head. The interface is synchronizing our neural patterns. It will stabilize the process. A holographic display above them showed two distinct patterns of brain activity gradually aligning, merging at certain points while remaining separate at others. "What's happening to us?" Nathan asked, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. "The genetic bond is forming," Lyra replied. Dr. Chen's compound accelerated what should have taken days into hours. "Our cellular structures are reconfiguring at the quantum level." The sensation was unlike anything Nathan had experienced. Neither painful nor pleasant, but profoundly transformative. He could feel changes occurring within his body, as if every cell was simultaneously being taken apart and reassembled in a slightly different configuration. More disturbing was the gradual dissolution of the boundary between his consciousness and Lyra's. Memories not his own flashed through his mind. A childhood on a distant mining colony, the cold sterility of an Aldebaran military academy, the weight of leadership over billions of lives, the loneliness of power. In turn, he felt her experiencing his memories. The death of his parents in a car accident when he was 15, medical school struggles, the slow disintegration of his marriage, the quiet satisfaction of saving lives in the ER. "I'm sorry," he heard / felt Lyra communicate. The normal process allows for mental preparation. This acceleration is difficult to control. Nathan forced himself to focus, drawing on the same mental discipline that had gotten him through 30-hour shifts in the ER. "Tell me what to expect. What comes next?" The final phase is genetic integration. Despite her weakened state, she managed to activate another display showing their DNA sequences. Certain segments of our genetic code will combine, creating a hybrid structure that exists in both of us simultaneously. "That's impossible," Nathan's scientific mind protested, even as he watched the process beginning on the molecular visualizer. "Impossible for humans, perhaps," Lyra replied, a hint of her usual confidence returning as the stabilization chamber began to normalize her condition. "My people mastered quantum entanglement at the genetic level centuries ago." As they spoke, the physical symptoms intensified. Nathan felt a burning sensation throughout his body, as if his blood had been replaced with something more volatile. His vision blurred, then sharpened to preternatural clarity. He could suddenly see spectrum ranges beyond normal human perception, ultraviolet patterns on the ceiling, infrared heat signatures from the equipment. Lyra gasped, her back arching. On the monitors, her vital signs spiked dangerously. "The compound is breaking down," she managed. "Without it, the Council can track us again. We need to complete the bond before they find us." "How? What do we do?" "Physical contact completes the circuit." Nathan reached out, taking her hand in his. The effect was immediate and overwhelming, like closing an electrical circuit carrying impossible voltage. Energy coursed between them, visible as a subtle blue luminescence where their skin touched. The sensation of separateness, of being confined to his own mind, his own body, began to dissolve. He was himself but also Lyra. She was herself but also him. Their consciousness expanded outward, encompassing the room, the observatory, the surrounding forest. Through Lyra's enhanced perceptions, Nathan suddenly became aware of approaching danger. 7 minds, cold, focused, determined, moving toward the observatory. Council operatives, their thoughts alien yet recognizable through Lyra's familiarity with her own kind. "They've found us," he said, the words coming automatically, though he couldn't have explained how he knew. "Yes," Lyra confirmed. "The compound has fully metabolized. My natural signature is broadcasting again." With effort, she sat up on the platform. The bond is nearly complete, but we need more time for it to stabilize. How much time? 20 minutes, perhaps 30. She swung her legs over the edge of the platform, standing unsteadily. We need to activate the facility's defenses. Moving to a central console, Lyra placed her palm on its surface. The entire observatory hummed to life, security systems engaging throughout the structure. Exterior cameras showed the approaching council operatives. 7 figures moving with military precision through the woods, carrying weapons unlike anything Nathan had seen before. Will the defenses hold them off? Not for long, Lyra admitted. This facility wasn't designed to withstand a direct assault. She turned to him, her golden eyes now containing flecks of human brown, a physical manifestation of their genetic merging. There's something else we can try. The legends speak of bonded pairs accessing abilities beyond either species alone, a synergistic effect of our combined consciousness. What kind of abilities? Telepathic projection, cellular manipulation, energy conversion. She took his hands in hers. But it requires complete neural synchronization, the final stage of bonding. On the security monitors, the council operatives had reached the perimeter of the observatory. The facility's automated defenses engaged, energy barriers shimmering into existence, causing the attackers to fall back temporarily. They're establishing a containment perimeter, Lyra observed. Standard procedure before a capture operation. Can we escape? Is there another way out? There's a transport pad that can beam us to any of our Earth facilities, but it requires time to calibrate, time we don't have. She looked at him intently. Nathan, I need you to trust me completely. What I'm about to suggest carries significant risk. More risk than alien assassins about to break in? He asked with grim humor. We need to force the completion of the bond. Compress what should take hours into minutes. Her expression was deadly serious. It will be intensely painful and could cause permanent neurological damage if unsuccessful. The exterior defenses triggered again as the council operatives tested their strength. One of the energy barriers flickered briefly. They're scanning for weaknesses, Lyra said. We have perhaps 10 minutes before they breach the perimeter. Nathan took a deep breath, making his decision. What do we need to do? The neural interface circlets we're wearing can be reconfigured to force synchronization. She moved to a control panel, her fingers dancing across its surface with renewed confidence. But the process requires an anchor, a memory or emotion strong enough to serve as a foundation for our combined consciousness. What kind of memory? The strongest you have. Your deepest joy, your greatest sorrow, your most profound revelation. Her eyes met his, and I will need to experience it as if it were my own. The intimacy of what she was asking struck him. To share his most private, most defining moment, to allow another being complete access to his core self. All right, he agreed. But if we're doing this, I want to know why you chose me. The real reason, not just genetic compatibility. Lyra's expression softened. Because in all my centuries, across all the worlds I've known, I've never encountered someone whose mind resonated with mine the way yours does. The genetic compatibility is real, but it's merely the physical manifestation of something deeper, a harmony of consciousness that transcends species, transcends biology. A crash from outside interrupted them, the sound of the first defensive barrier falling. We need to hurry, Lyra urged, making final adjustments to the neural interfaces. Nathan closed his eyes, searching for the memory that defined him. Not medical school graduation or his wedding day, those were milestones but not foundations. Instead, he found himself returning to a night in the ER 3 years ago. A bus crash, dozens of injured, a young girl with catastrophic internal bleeding who should have died but didn't because he refused to give up, working on her for hours after others had declared her a lost cause. The moment she opened her eyes the next morning was when he truly understood his purpose in life. "I have it," he said. "Focus on that memory," Lyra instructed. "Let it fill your consciousness completely." She initiated the synchronization sequence. The neural circuits hummed with increased energy. Nathan felt the memory expanding, intensifying, every detail, every emotion becoming impossibly vivid. Then Lyra was there with him, experiencing his desperate fight to save the girl, feeling his determination, his refusal to accept defeat, his profound connection to that moment when life and death hung in the balance. The barriers between their minds dissolved completely. Nathan was no longer just sharing the memory, they were creating a new reality from it, a foundation for something unprecedented. He felt Lyra's consciousness merging with his own, her centuries of experience, her alienness, her profound loneliness as a leader set apart from her people. All of it flowing into him as his humanity flowed into her. Their awareness expanded beyond the physical confines of the observatory, beyond their individual bodies. Nathan could perceive the quantum structure of reality itself, the vibrating strings of energy that composed all matter, the hidden connections between seemingly separate objects, the underlying unity of all things. Through this expanded perception, he became acutely aware of the council operatives outside. Their thoughts, their intentions, their weaknesses. He could feel the structure of their weapons at the molecular level, could sense the electronic signals passing through their communication devices. "It's working," Lyra's voice echoed in their shared consciousness. "The bond is stabilizing." On the security monitors, the operatives had breached the second defensive barrier. They were now at the main entrance, placing what appeared to be explosive charges around the sealed door. "They're coming in," Nathan observed, surprised by his own calmness. "We're ready," Lyra replied, and he felt her confidence as if it were his own. She extended her hand, and Nathan took it without hesitation. Power surged between them, raw energy generated by their synchronized bioelectric fields, amplified by the alien technology surrounding them. Lyra guided this power, showing Nathan how to shape it, control it, direct it. "Focus your intention," she instructed. "Visualize what you want to happen." The main door exploded inward. Council operatives poured through the breach, weapons raised. The leader, taller than the others, with the same silver-white hair as Lyra but cold, empty eyes, stepped forward. "Sovereign Commander Nystowry," he announced formally, "you are charged with treason against the Aldebaran Alliance, genetic heresy, and unauthorized bonding with a primitive species." His gaze shifted to Nathan. "The human will be terminated." Nathan felt Lyra's anger flare through their bond. Not hot and chaotic like human rage, but cold, focused, and devastating. Together, they raised their free hands, directing the energy they had generated. The effect was immediate and shocking. The weapons in the operatives' hands simply disintegrated, their molecular bonds severed at the quantum level. The leader staggered back, his expression changing from arrogant certainty to fear. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice losing its authority. "What my ancestors began," Lyra replied. "What the Council has feared for centuries." Through their bond, Nathan sensed Lyra preparing a more powerful attack. One that would destroy not just weapons but the operatives themselves. He instinctively pulled back, his healer's ethics asserting themselves even in this transformed state. "No," he communicated through the bond. "There's another way." He guided their shared power with a surgeon's precision, targeting not the operatives' bodies but their neural implants, the devices the Council used to ensure absolute loyalty among its forces. One by one, the implants failed, and the operatives collapsed to their knees, expressions of confusion and then dawning awareness crossing their faces. "You freed them," Lyra realized. understanding his intention through their shared consciousness. "Everyone deserves a choice," Nathan replied. "Even your people." The leader of the operatives was the last to fall. As his implant failed, decades of suppressed identity flooded back into his consciousness. He looked up at Lyra with recognition that hadn't been there before. "Cousin," he gasped. "Varian. I am Varian. I remember now. Varian died in the Proxima rebellions," Lyra responded, but Nathan felt her shock ripple through their bond. "No," the man said, struggling to his feet. "I was captured, reprogrammed, made into this." He looked down at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. "What you've done, the bond, it's real. Everything they feared." The other operatives were recovering, each experiencing a similar awakening as years of conditioning dissolved. Their thoughts, now unfettered, radiated confusion, anger, and a desperate hunger for understanding. "What happens now?" Nathan asked, addressing both Lyra and the freed Aldebarans. "Now we make a choice," Lyra said, her voice carrying the weight of her position. "Continue what the council began: violence, oppression, genetic manipulation, or forge a new path." Varian straightened, something of his former military bearing returning. "The council controls the alliance through fear and technology. They have planetary defense systems, fleets, armies still loyal through implants. But they don't have this," Lyra countered, raising her hand still joined with Nathan's. The energy between them pulsed visibly, a physical manifestation of their bond. "They don't have the truth about what humans and Aldebarans can become together." Through their connection, Nathan felt a plan forming in Lyra's mind. Bold, dangerous, potentially revolutionary. "You want to go public," he said, understanding her intention. "Not just to your people, but to mine. Both species deserve to know," she confirmed. "The council has maintained power through secrecy and manipulation for too long." Varian and the other freed operatives exchanged glances. "We will follow you, Sovereign Commander," he said finally. "But the council will use every resource to stop you. They'll destroy this facility, this entire region, rather than let you succeed." "Then we need to move quickly," Lyra said. She turned to the central console, her free hand dancing across its surface as she maintained contact with Nathan with the other. "The transport pad can be recalibrated to reach orbital range. Our primary command ship is still in lunar orbit, shielded from Earth detection systems." "You have loyalists on board?" Varian asked. "Enough," Lyra replied. "Crew members who question the council's policies, who have seen the effects of genetic degradation firsthand and recognize the need for change." Nathan followed the plan unfolding in their shared consciousness: to transport to Lyra's command ship, use its communication array to broadcast the truth simultaneously to Earth governments and Aldebaran worlds, expose the council's centuries of manipulation, and demonstrate the potential of human Aldebaran cooperation through their own bonded abilities. "It won't be easy," he said, feeling the enormity of what they were attempting. "There will be resistance, disbelief, fear on both sides." "Yes," Lyra acknowledged, "but there will also be hope. For the first time in centuries, real hope for a future beyond the Council's vision of genetic purity and controlled decline." The transport pad hummed to life as Lyra completed the calibration. The freed operatives gathered on the platform, still disoriented but committed to their newfound freedom. As Nathan and Lyra joined them, hands still clasped, the boundary between their individual selves continued to blur. They remained distinct personalities, separate beings, but their consciousness flowed freely between them. Thoughts, emotions, memories shared without barriers or deception. "Are you ready?" Lyra asked, both aloud and through their bond. Nathan thought of the life he was leaving behind, His work at the hospital, his apartment in Boston, the comfortable predictability of his human existence. Then he looked at the woman beside him, alien yet now as familiar as his own reflection, and at the former council operatives who had been granted a second chance through their combined power. "I'm ready," he replied, and felt the truth of it resonating through every cell of his transformed body. As the transport beam enveloped them, converting their physical forms to energy patterns, Nathan experienced a moment of perfect clarity. Whatever came next, revolution, revelation, the forging of a new relationship between two species, he was exactly where he needed to be, bound to a being who had crossed galaxies to find him. The observatory dissolved around them, replaced seconds later by the sleek interior of an Aldebaran command ship. Their journey, and the real fight, was just beginning. The bridge of the Aldebaran command ship, Celestial Harbinger, hummed with tension. News of Lyra and Nathan's arrival had spread rapidly through the crew, along with rumors of their bond and the freed council operatives. Crew members watched with a mixture of awe and apprehension as Lyra strode onto the bridge, Nathan at her side, their hands still joined. Captain Torval, a loyal officer who had served under Lyra for decades, stepped forward and bowed formally. "Sovereign Commander, we received no communication about your arrival." "Because this isn't an official visit, Torval," Lyra replied. "The Council has branded me a traitor. They sent operatives to eliminate both me and Dr. Reed." Murmurs spread among the bridge crew. Torval's expression remained professional, but Nathan could sense his internal conflict. Duty to the Council warring with personal loyalty to Lyra. "And these?" Torval gestured to Varian and the other freed operatives who had accompanied them to the bridge. "Former Council enforcers," Lyra explained. "Dr. Reed and I disabled their control implants. They've chosen to join us of their own free will." Varian stepped forward. "The Council has been lying to all of us, Captain. About humans, about genetic compatibility, about the future of our species." Torval's eyes narrowed as he studied Lyra and Nathan more carefully. "The rumors are true then. You've completed the bond with this human." "See for yourself," Lyra said. She released Nathan's hand for the first time since their consciousnesses had merged. Though physically separated, their bond remained intact. An unbroken connection that rippled visibly around them as a subtle aurora of energy. Lyra raised her hand, and a holographic display on the bridge responded instantly, systems activating without physical contact. Nathan, understanding her intention through their bond, raised his own hand. Despite having no training with Aldebaran technology, he found he could manipulate the ship systems just as Lyra did, the knowledge flowing from her mind to his. The bridge crew stared in stunned silence. Bonded pairs were the stuff of legend, of ancient history. To see one demonstrated before them, and with a human no less challenged centuries of council doctrine about genetic purity and human inferiority. "The Council will declare this ship in rebellion if we assist you," Torval said, though Nathan could sense his resolve weakening. "They'll do that regardless," Lyra countered. "The moment we transported aboard, automated systems would have reported our presence. We have perhaps 20 minutes before Council warships receive orders to intercept and destroy this vessel." "Destroy?" Torval looked alarmed. "Surely they wouldn't." "They would," Varian interrupted. "I've carried out such orders myself when I was under their control. The Council considers the bond an existential threat to their power. They'll sacrifice this ship and everyone aboard rather than risk its revelation." Captain Torval straightened, his decision made. "What are your orders, Sovereign Commander?" "Activate the ship's quantum communication array," Lyra commanded. "We're going to broadcast simultaneously to all Aldebaran worlds and Earth's major governments. Such a broadcast would violate dozens of Council directives," Torval warned, though he was already moving to comply. The Council has violated its own founding principles, Lyra replied. They've deliberately suppressed human development, eliminated compatible individuals, and hidden the truth about our species' decline. As the crew prepared the communication array, Nathan felt a sudden spike of alarm through his connection with Lyra. He turned to her, understanding the danger before she spoke it aloud. Multiple ships dropping out of quantum space, she announced. Council enforcement vessels, heavily armed. The main viewscreen confirmed her warning. 5 Aldebaran warships had appeared in lunar orbit, their weapons systems active and targeting the Celestial Harbinger. Time to broadcast? Lyra asked Torval. 3 minutes to full power, he replied tensely. We don't have 3 minutes, Varian warned, studying the tactical display. Those ships are moving into attack formation. Nathan felt Lyra's mind working rapidly through their bond, calculating options, assessing risks. Then came a new sensation. She was drawing on his human perspective, his different way of approaching problems. The Earth defense satellites, he said suddenly, the idea forming in both their minds simultaneously. We can use them as a shield. Explain, Torval demanded. Position this ship in the midst of Earth's satellite network. Nathan continued. The Council can't fire without damaging Earth technology, which would violate the non-interference treaty. It would buy us time, Lyra agreed. Enough to complete the broadcast. And potentially trigger a human military response, Torval cautioned. Earth governments would detect weapons fire in orbit. That's counting on it, Lyra said grimly. The Council has maintained power through secrecy. Exposure is their greatest weakness. Torval gave the order, and the Celestial Harbinger maneuvered into Earth's crowded orbital lanes, positioning itself among communication satellites and space stations. As predicted, the Council warships hesitated, unwilling to risk treaty violations by firing into Earth's orbital infrastructure. Communication array at full power, a crew member reported. Open channels to all Aldebaran worlds, Lyra commanded, and establish connection to Earth's global communication networks. Nathan felt a moment of doubt ripple through their bond, not from Lyra, but from himself. The magnitude of what they were about to do, the irreversible change they would bring to both their worlds, weighed on him. Second thoughts, Lyra asked privately through their connection. No, he replied the same way. Just recognizing the responsibility. Once we do this, nothing will ever be the same for either of our species. That's precisely the point, she answered, her confidence steadying him. The view screen divided, showing connection status to thousands of reception points across Earth and the Aldebaran systems. Green indicators lit up as the connections were established. A historic moment as two civilizations were about to be linked for the first time without Council filters or controls. We are being hailed by the lead Council vessel, Torval reported. They're demanding our immediate surrender and the termination of all broadcast preparations. Ignore them, Lyra ordered. Broadcast status? Ready, Sovereign Commander. Lyra turned to Nathan. Together. He nodded, taking her hand once more. The physical contact intensified their bond, their combined energy visibly manifesting around them. Citizens of Earth and the Aldebaran Alliance, Lyra began, her voice carrying across the vastness of space to billions of listeners on both worlds. I am Sovereign Commander Lyra Nystowery. For too long, the Aldebaran High Council has maintained power through deception and manipulation. Nathan continued seamlessly, their thoughts synchronizing perfectly. I am Dr. Nathan Reed of Earth. What you are witnessing is a direct, unfiltered communication between our worlds, something the Council has prevented for decades to maintain their control. As they spoke, the visual feed showed them clearly. Human and Aldebaran joined not just physically but energetically, the visible manifestation of their bond undeniable. For centuries, Lyra explained, the Council has suppressed the truth about genetic compatibility between our species. They have assassinated humans with compatible DNA, like Catherine Miller of Chicago in 1954, and censored all information about the potential benefits of genetic cooperation. The Council claims genetic purity is necessary for Aldebaran survival, Nathan added. But the opposite is true. The forced isolation of Aldebaran genetics has led to degradation and declining birth rates. They need human genetic diversity, yet they've killed those who could provide it. Through their bond, they shared the presentation equally, Lyra providing historical context about Aldebaran presence on Earth since the 1940s. Nathan explaining the scientific principles behind their genetic compatibility. Together, they demonstrated the abilities their bond had unlocked, manipulating energy fields and quantum particles with a precision that neither species could achieve alone. On the tactical display, the Council warships were closing in despite the risk, their weapons charging. Earth defense systems had detected the activity, and human military satellites were reorienting toward the confrontation. The Council fears what we represent, Lyra continued, undeterred by the approaching threat. Not because it threatens Aldebaran survival, but because it threatens their control. True partnership between our species would create something new, something beyond their ability to manipulate or suppress. We're offering a different vision, Nathan said. Not conquest or control, but cooperation. Not genetic isolation, but sustainable diversity. Not secrecy, but transparency. Multiple quantum space disturbances detected, Torval reported urgently. More Council ships incoming. But something unexpected was happening. On the communication monitors, responses were flooding in. Not just from Earth governments expressing shock and demanding explanations, but from Aldebaran worlds across the Alliance. Colonial governors, military commanders, ordinary citizens, all responding to the broadcast, many expressing support. The colonial fleet in the Proximus sector is declaring allegiance to Sovereign Commander Niztauri, a communications officer reported in disbelief. The governors of 7 core worlds are demanding Council accountability. Nathan felt the tide turning through his bond with Lyra. Decades of simmering discontent with Council rule catalyzed by their revelation. Centuries of propaganda about human inferiority shattered by the evidence before them. The Council warships hesitated in their approach. On the command frequency, voices could be heard arguing about how to proceed as reports of uprisings and declarations of support for Lyra poured in from across the Alliance. It's working, Nathan said privately to Lyra through their bond. The Council is losing control, she agreed. But this is just the beginning. They continued their broadcast, laying out a vision for the future, joint human Aldebaran research initiatives, gradual cultural exchange, a new governance structure for the Alliance based on representation rather than genetic hierarchy. Suddenly, the tactical display flashed warnings. The lead Council warship had locked weapons and was preparing to fire despite the risks. They're targeting our communication array, Torval warned. They're going to try to cut off the broadcast. Before anyone could react, Nathan and Lyra moved as one. Through their bond, they accessed the ship's defensive systems at a level deeper than physical controls, connecting directly to the quantum processors that regulated energy distribution. Acting on instincts that were simultaneously human and Aldebaran, they created a shield configuration that no single species could have conceived, a layered quantum barrier that absorbed and redistributed the incoming attack. The Council ship fired. Energy lanced across the void of space toward the celestial harbinger. Instead of damaging the ship, the beam was caught in the quantum barrier, its destructive power converted and channeled back through the communication array, amplifying their broadcast signal to unprecedented levels. "What did you do?" Torval asked in amazement. "Something new," Lyra replied simply. On Earth, millions were now watching the drama unfolding in orbit. In Washington, D.C., New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and capitals around the world, emergency sessions were convening as leaders grappled with irrefutable proof of advanced alien presence. Across the Aldebaran Alliance, the Council's authority was collapsing in real time. Colonial administrators were declaring independence, military units were standing down, and ordinary Aldebarans were taking to public spaces in demonstrations of support for Lyra's vision. The Council warships found themselves increasingly isolated as their crews, inspired by what they were witnessing, began questioning their orders. One by one, the ships broke off their attack, some openly declaring support for Lyra. Through it all, Nathan and Lyra maintained their connection. Two individuals from different worlds, now something more than either had been alone. Their bond had not erased their separate identities, but had created a third awareness between them, a shared consciousness that bridged the gap between human and Aldebaran. The Council flagship is retreating, Torval announced as the last opposing vessel turned away. We've received word that protests have reached the Council chambers on Aldebaran Prime. 3 Council members have already resigned. Cheers erupted on the bridge. Lyra squeezed Nathan's hand, their thoughts and emotions flowing freely between them. Triumph, relief, and a profound sense of purpose fulfilled. What now? Nathan asked through their bond. Now we build, Lyra replied both mentally and aloud, addressing the crew and their billions of viewers. We build a new relationship between our peoples, not based on domination or secrecy, but on mutual respect and cooperation. She turned to face Nathan fully, their joined hands still radiating the visible energy of their bond. The Council was right about one thing: our union has changed everything, but not in the way they feared. What flows between us isn't a weapon to be used against either of our peoples, but a bridge to connect them. As the celestial harbinger orbited Earth, poised between two worlds on the brink of a new era, Lyra and Nathan stood together. Neither fully human nor fully Aldebaran, but the first of something new. Through their bond, they shared a vision of the future. Research centers where scientists from both species worked side by side, cultural exchanges that enriched both civilizations, a gradual integration that preserved what was unique about each while creating something greater than either alone. They'll call you a traitor to your species, Nathan said, aware of the challenges still ahead. As they will you, Lyra replied with a small smile. But in time, they'll understand what we've always known through our bond, that the true potential of any species lies not in isolation, but in connection. On the view screen, Earth rotated serenely, its blue expanse now seen through new eyes by billions of Aldebarans across the galaxy. And on Aldebaran worlds, humans were getting their first unfiltered glimpse of a civilization that had watched them from the shadows for centuries. Captain Torval approached, formal despite the historic chaos around them. Sovereign Commander, we're receiving requests for direct communication from 17 Earth governments and 32 Aldebaran colonial administrations. How do you wish to proceed? Lyra looked at Nathan, their bond flowing with shared purpose and the certainty of the path ahead. Together, they said in perfect unison, their voices, one human, one Aldebaran, blending into a single harmonious declaration that echoed across two worlds and beyond. As dawn broke over Boston Harbor where their journey had begun just days earlier, Nathan Reed, Dr. Human Now Something More, stood hand in hand with Lyra Nystowery, Sovereign Commander Aldebaran Now Something More, at the threshold of a future neither of their species could have imagined alone, but that they would now build together. The end.